Buongiorno. Okay, so since I made the star bread on the last video, I decided I'm going to go ahead and make some regular bread. I'm going to make a recipe that is just a plain bread recipe with all-purpose flour. You can choose to use bread flour, anything you want. I just use regular all-purpose flour. It gives it a little extra rising boost in my opinion. But we're going to start off making the yeast. If you've never made bread before, the basic thing is that you make the starter, which has yeast and sugar and water, and that activates the yeast to help the bread rise. So I use this Safe Instant, I don't know how you say it, La Safre, I don't know, but it is the best yeast that I've ever tried. It's loose. I just put the wrapper around a regular jar and I keep it in the fridge. I'm telling you what, it not only lasts forever, but it's the best rising yeast I've ever tried. So anyway, how we start is a half a cup of sugar in your thing. And then you're going to use, let's see, it's 2 cups of warm water to the sugar. And I'll get that. 1. 2. Now you don't want your water like scalding hot, and you don't want it room temperature warm either, somewhere in between. If it was on a stove setting, I'd do, like a medium high. And then we're going to stir this around to dissolve the sugar a bit. I don't do it too much because you want the sugar to be there for the yeast to grab onto too. It kind of feeds the yeast. And so now we're going to use 1 1/2 tablespoons of this active yeast. So there's 1. You just put it right in there. Little tiny beads of yeast. It's really good stuff. 2. Excuse my sniffles. And I'm just going to do this enough to kind of get it moistened up, but you'll see the yeast will start its job. So we're going to let that set for 5 minutes or so. I'm going to cover it for a few minutes and then uncover it, and it's going to start to bubble and the yeast will start to grow and foam up. And that's going to be the base for what we're going to add our flour to. And then I'll come back. Okay, so now it's been 5 to 7 minutes and you can see that the yeast has what's called bloom. The yeast has bloomed. It's gotten a foamy and a little bubbly on top. I kind of help this process, and I do this on top of my stove, not where the bowl would burn or anything, but because I turn the oven on warm, like 200, 250, and let that kind of heat up. The heat rises out through the burners. There's always one burner that kind of has heat come out. And that helps any of the dough rise, keeps the area warmer. You don't want to do bread like in a really cold room. The warmth in the room really does help it. And later on, when I set the bread to rise, we'll do the Italian bread rising prayer, which I don't know if you've ever heard of, but that's kind of neat. My grandma and everybody always said it too. Okay, so anyway, to this yeast bloom, we're going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. And I don't know if anybody ever knew, but I'm going to show you a trick. If you're doing, salt from a shaker, and, it only pours for a minute necessarily, but if you rub the bottom of the salt, I don't know if you can see, but it comes out. I don't know the agitation from the bottom of the salt container. You don't have to tap it or shake it. You can just rub the bottom of the salt container and it'll flow. Try it out. Anyway, we'll set that aside. Okay, and then we'll also add 1/4 cup of oil. I have used olive oil before. This is regular vegetable oil. So use the one that you believe in. And we're going to mix that up. And we're going to mix that up So at this point you think, oh, the oil might be stopping the bloom from happening. I don't know the science of that, but I know the sugars are still in there and the yeast is still feeding on that. So pretty cool. That's the basic. Now we're going to add 5 to 6 cups of flour to make our dough. And so let me get that measured out and then we'll add it. I also wanted to say, when you're measuring your flour out, I've packed it in the cup before and it makes the bread really heavy. So I just kind of pour it in fluffy. I'm not sifting the flour, but I'm pouring it in so that you can see that it's kind of fluffier and there's some air in between there. The heavier you pack your flour down, the heavier the bread's going to be, in my opinion. Although we're going to do 7+ minutes of kneading the dough, but I kind of measure it like that. Loose, fluffy cups of flour, okay? Okay, I've measured out half of the flour, 3 cups, and, well, you can really see that there's some more bubble in there. And I'm going to add it slowly. I've switched to a wooden spoon. Add enough, you know, just to get it going at first. You're going to add it slowly and kind of fold it in. Instantly, I bet that yeast is going, oh yeah. Feed me more. It's going to look kind of weird and chunky and, I don't know, like concrete mixture, paper mache stuff. But just keep on getting your flour in there. So we're going to mix in the 3 cups at first. It's going to start getting thicker. It's 5.5 to 6 cups. You'll see as it gets going. At the end, the 5 cups, you'll be like, oh, I can't add any more. But then as you start kneading it, you'll see you want it so that it pulls away from your fingers. So like right now, if I did it, you could see that it's super sticky stuff. And that's half of the dough. So I'm going to fill up the rest of the half and we'll keep on mixing. Okay, I have the rest of the flour and I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. Just 1 more cup. It's getting pretty stiff now. Might have to go in with my hands. I know you're thinking, how is that water enough? I don't know. This is 4 cups of water, or 4 cups of flour so far. And we had just the 2 cups of water. So it's pretty thick now to mix with a wooden spoon. And I'm going to put some gloves on and we'll get mixing with the hands. Okay, got my gloves on. Clean off the wooden spoon, set that aside, and we're going to go in and just kind of start folding it over. So it's, oh my gosh, it's so soft. And at this point, if you pull it, you can see some glutinous strings start to form. This is what we're going to see as we go on further. When you're making like a bread dough or a pizza dough and you pull it apart, if you have heard the word gluten and you've never thought about what it is, yeah, it affects the stringiness of the bread. So you can see it starting to pull apart. So it was hard to mix with the wooden spoon, but it's really soft and squishy right now. Like not even to Play-Doh feeling texture here, but I have some loose flour in the bottom of the bowl here, so I'm going to kind of incorporate all that before I add any more. And this is kneading. You fold it over and I push it down over the knuckles. You fold it over and you push it down. I can't resist doing that all the time. Okay, we make the bread and knead. We definitely needed the bread. I'm going to need a Kleenex. Okay, And this is why I put gloves on. You know, tradition, you know, never really minded growing up kneading it without gloves on. It wasn't a thing, but now that gloves are a thing, I can't get it out of my head, and I'm just gonna wear them. Okay, so that's looking pretty good still. I'm gonna go ahead and add my 5th cup of flour. Another half. There we go. 5 to 6 cups. So I have a cup set aside. We'll see how far this goes. The flour's nice and cool. I do tend to set the flour, if you're going to try this, I set the flour out in the morning just to get it to room temperature. I don't know if that really ever helps. I do the same thing with the yeast. Otherwise, I keep them both in the fridge to keep them fresh and dry. Except for the current amount I'm using from day to day, like for biscuits or something, I keep a glass apothecary jar on the stove or on the counter with fresh flour. Otherwise, the backup flour and things like that stay in the fridge or the freezer. Things like that won't freeze in the freezer, but they'll stay fresh and dry and free from critters or whatever you might have going on. So this is pretty good. And I'm just gonna now continue to knead it for about 7 minutes, and I'll come back and show you how much the flour gets incorporated. It's good hand exercise. It takes all the arm power sometimes. I'm just gonna keep doing this and get the elasticity and everything going on. So I've taken it out of the bowl and mixing it on the breadboard. Kind of fun if you're interested in making bread to shop for products. You can get, which I just ordered some more larger, like 15 by 21 cookie sheets. You can use bread pans. Definitely if you like the traditional loaf. I like to freelance it and put it on a cookie sheet. Then you can shape it, form it, make twists. There are also French bread pans for the long baguette rolls. You can find all that. Just search bread making equipment on Amazon. You'll see it all if you don't have a local store by you. So this is with the 5 cups. It is still sticky. You can see that it has some elasticity to it now. Let's just try and zoom in. Before when I pulled it, and now compare. You can see some of that start to form. But has some give back, see? But still a little sticky. So I'm just going to keep turning it and add a little more flour from my 5 cups that's left in the bowl and get that in. And then you just fold it and do that. Okay? The more you knead it, the more it builds up the elasticity. So I just keep flour in my board a little bit, and I've gone to the 2 hands. If you want to make bread and you have like kids or anybody, you know, around that want to help, you can split the dough at this point and give everybody a little portion to knead, because honestly, this makes 2 loaves, 2 regular size loaves in a loaf pan. But if you wanted to do like smaller, because they make mini loaf pans, you could cut it into 4, so then everybody could make their own little loaf, shape it how they want. Essentially some bread cutting tools. If you see like bread with the fancy slits on the top that bakes open, like it's popping out, is really just like, you'll see bread knives that look like X-Acto knife blades, really super sharp blades that just slice across. So if I had the bread here formed in one big loaf, when I put it in the pan, I would just slit that and it would open up as it bakes. It's not as complicated as it may seem. This is getting pretty good. So it's not sticky to my finger at all. and it has good bounce back. Pretty good elasticity going on. Yeah. So I'm gonna call it good, I think. Pretty good here. As I'm doing this, I'm also listening to push out any air bubbles that are in there. Which you can kind of feel too if there's any. It's not always a huge deal, but it's something. I think we're pretty good here. So there's a point where you're going to stop adding flour and just do your board like I'm doing, because you don't want it to turn around and dry out. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to split it, and well, we're going to let it rise, and then we'll punch it down later on. That's the fun part, the punching of the bread, the down when it rises up. Yeah. So it rises pretty big. My mom used to warm the oven like she's doing now, like I'm doing now, and then she'd turn it off and let the residual heat in the oven help the bread rise. Sometimes overnight it would get so big in the pan, so big, so big. Anyway, I think this is looking pretty good. So I'm gonna get this ready to show you how to let it rise. Okay, I've rinsed some of the extra stuff out of this same bowl. It doesn't matter that we're gonna oil this because it's the same ingredients that are in the bread dough. We're gonna just spray some oil in there on the sides. The reason is because as it rises, the bread opens up a little bit and can be sticky. So you're just gonna kind of lightly put a coating of oil on the sides. Okay. And whatever is left on your hand, or an extra little spray of it on your hand. Nothing big. Kind of coat it around there. And we're gonna plop that baby right in there. So I'm gonna cover this. If you have a bread towel or something, I don't like to do towels. I'll do foil and maybe a towel over the foil. I'm very particular about like soap smells going on things, so I don't like fabric softener or anything going onto my food. So I'll put foil over it. You can do a plastic wrap over it, just something that insulates it over the top. I also have some bread bags, so maybe I'll do that, and then a towel on top of it. Something to keep this little baby nice and warm for an hour, and then we'll come back and see how much it's risen. Okay, so right now you can see the top of it barely hits halfway in the bowl. So we'll see how much it rises, and I'll be back in an hour or so. So I just covered it with a bread bag that I have, and then I'll put a towel over the top of it. But what I wanted to come back while I'm letting it rise and say is that you could, if this is the only dough you ever wanted to learn to make, you could use this for a lot of things. You could do breadsticks with this, a lot of breadsticks. And you could twist them or make them straight long, in which case you could brush them with melted butter and Parmesan cheese or herbs. You could use this dough for little round biscuits. You could put little balls of this dough into muffin tins, like I had done with the frozen ones, but you could do it with the little balls of this dough and make your own little muffins. You could flatten it out into little round circles and put meat inside and close it up and bake it that way. There's so many options. You could use this for a focaccia bread. Roll it out into like a rectangle shape, about a ½ inch thick, and then poke little spots down with your fingers. You can drizzle olive oil on top of it when it bakes. Then and it's almost done, you can put like mozzarella and basil and different things on it for a focaccia bread. And you look up recipes for that. But this this dough can be used for a lot of different things. It's not too far off from cinnamon roll bread, but yeah, you could do a lot with it. And I just wanted to throw that out there while we're waiting for it to rise. So I'm just here making my salad while the bread rises, and I wanted to show you how much in like 25 minutes it has risen already. So remember, it was only half the bowl, and now the whole thing is expanding outward and upward, and it's just a few inches from the top already. It's still pretty solid, but there is, when I push in, there's some bounce back. So we're going to cover that, and it should even go double that to the top of the thing when we're done. So although the bread is rising, I can feel over the top. I forgot to say a bread rising prayer. Maybe it was already in my heart, so it was okay, but we'll say this before we even look at it. Cresce pane a massa come cresceva Gesù nelle fasce, which is rise bread as Jesus did in his swaddling clothes. And that's a typical Italian bread prayer for rising. The connection is unreal because Jesus shared bread at the Last Supper, see? So we kind of connect the bread rising with a blessed thing that you can have in your life and enjoy and sustenance, which continues in your holy life. Okay, so we'll say another one before we bake it, and we'll be back shortly. Are we ready? It's been about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. So here we go. Holy moly, look. It rose. It filled the whole container and an inch or two above it. Wow. So I've been thinking about the type of breads that, there's a lot of different shapes. You can do freeform, you can do twisted braids, knotted braid ones, long loaves. You can do ones with slits. I think I'm going to do a round braided one, and then a long freeform loaf that has different slits in it. So at this point, watch this. This is the best part. Oh, don't piss me off, eh? Oh, I kill you. That was the best part, was punching the bread dough down. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of this flour. Gonna dump her on out. Look, it picked up everything. Isn't that great? Oh, it's so fun. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on again. Okay, so we punched it down and the dough is soft. It has risen, which means it's utilized more of, oh, it's so soft. Not sticky, has a lot of bounce back, has lighter texture. It's used a lot of the rising energy from the yeast. But we're going to go ahead and take our slicer plastic thing, and I'm just going to slice it right down the middle. Now, like I said before, you could do a lot of little loaves. You could do little round biscuits at this point and freeze them, actually, and use them when you want. Like I had frozen ones for my pan the other day. But you could freeze dough anytime, and then you just set it out to thaw, and as it thaws, it rises a little, and you bake it. So there's a lot of different options. This is a good thing to make ahead of time. You could split these into fourths and make little soup loaves for soups. So yeah, so I think they're about even. I'm going to go ahead and set one aside. And I got my pans ready with a little bit of grease on them, just a little bit of oil, and I'm going to go ahead and shape this. So I think the first one I'm going to do into a round ball. So we're just going to knead it lightly for 1 minute, folding it over as we get it into our shape. So this one, I think I said I was going to do see, I'm going to do the other one a braided round. I'll do a 4-strand braided round one, and this one I'll do a regular loaf. So we're going to get it flat, and you want to just start folding it into itself. So you can do a rectangle one for a loaf pan, and you just work it that way and fold it into each other. This one, just going to start tucking it into each other, to itself, I mean. So you're going to get this seam. The tighter the seam, the better it will, I don't know, try and bust out of its own seams, kind of speak, and raise more. Because it's going to raise as soon as you put it in the oven again. But I need to clear my table, my dining room table off of things I'm doing so that I can do this in a bigger space. Super easy to shape though. Yeah. I think that's a good side. Pretty good. Nice freeform. And then I have, now a lot of people wouldn't split the loaf first, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to just put, let's see, maybe cross. See that? If you can see that or not. And let's see. As it bakes, those are going to pop open more. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this onto my sheet here. Believe it or not, that's all it takes. We're going to cover that one just with the little plastic here, and we're going to let that rise for 30 minutes. Switch pans here. Get my other one. A little more flour. Okay. Now this one, good view. I'm going to roll, and I'm going to roll it into a log and then make 4 different pieces of it and cut that. So each one of these is going to be a braid strand. So there's 3 strands and 4 strand ones. I suppose you can get more complicated, but 4 strand. We're going to make these into 4 equal long pieces, and then I'll be back. I've got 3 done. Now I'm just shaping the 4th one into a long strand. Look, it's a tadpole. Just kidding. Oh my gosh. So if you have a really sturdy flat surface, you can of course roll it on the flat surface. I start it by doing it in the air like that, and then when you put it down on your surface, you can roll it out further. Okay, so I have 4 strands, and now I'm going to arrange them in a braided circle. Okay, so what you want to do is take 2 of them, and it's going to be like intertwined. Okay, take one, cross this one over. Okay, you're going to take another one, kind of offset that a little, cross it over, and then this one is under, so this one will go over. This one is over, so this one will go under. Okay. Okay. Then you just start wrapping them over. So this one will go over. 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 Okay. And you don't want to go over again to have 2 over ones side by side, so then you go backwards the other way. This one will go over. This one will go, and you always go straight over. This one will go over, and this one will go over. If you have enough, you can keep going, and I think we do. So you can see already how it's becoming a knot. And I don't want to go next to this to have another over one, so we're going to go with the next one and go this way, this way. Looks like little baby chicken legs at this point, and this way. And I think that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead and tuck the little pieces underneath together. Pretty, huh? Yeah. So then we're going to transfer this over to our sheet here that's already greased and ready to go. So I'm also going to cover that one, and we're going to let that rise for 30 minutes just so they have the last little bit of proofing. And then we'll come back and say our baking prayer and put them in the oven. Okay, welcome back to the final stage of the baking. So we have the bread here. I've let it rise another 30 minutes on the pan, and you can see that it has gotten quite large. And I think that I've decided this one, so there's different washes you can do at the end to keep moisture on the top of the bread from it drying out, and also to get different effects. You can do a water wash, which is usually common for crusty breads. Also olive oil, and you can do an egg wash with a little bit of water or milk. So I'm going to do a different one on each one. This one I'm going to do the olive oil. This one I'm going to do the olive oil over the top, brushed lightly, and a little bit of rosemary. And then this one, which is our loaf, and you can see how this little slits have spread apart, and they'll become more prevalent when it bakes. I'm going to do the egg wash on top of that one, and nothing else but butter, maybe some garlic at the end. So let's get started. So I have my olive oil. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top. So beautiful. Look at that nice color. And I'm going to go ahead and take my little brush and brush it all down in there. Usually for crusty breads, it'll be a water or an olive oil. And then the sweet breads, we'll use the egg wash, like Easter breads. If you're not familiar, Easter breads that we can do with the eggs baked in, the whole eggs baked into it, that's pretty, if I did a video on that on my other channel, I'll have to check. And if so, I'll link it. But really pretty. You can see that it's just coated enough on all sides. Beautiful. See, it's not hard. You just make the dough and you can shape it to whatever you want. Go step by step and you'll get it. I think that's pretty good. And we can check it as it's baking, but I'm just going to take a little pretty rosemary and sprinkle that on top. Nice. You know, you can get crackers with rosemary and all those flavors, so you might as well just do it on your pretty bread. Kind of oil on top to secure it a little bit. How does that look? Pretty? Okay, so now we'll switch over. Scusa. Okay, and now we have our egg wash. Is a little bit of the egg, like I did with the other bread, egg and water, and this will give it a nice golden, darker color, and doesn't have to be a lot, but you'll see as it bakes. Yeah, very pretty. This should be good. Doesn't take much. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put them in a preheated oven, 350 degrees, 30 to 40 minutes, and I'll check it along the way. Before we do put it in, I have a bread prayer, though, for both of our loaves here. So we can get them both in there a little bit, okay? Cresce pane in forno come cresceva Gesù per tutto il mondo. Okay, that means grow bread in the oven as Jesus grew throughout the world. Okay, so it will grow a little bit more as it bakes, and I'll bring you back at that point. So here we are 30 minutes in. It's 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to turn the oven down a little bit. Now at this stage, what I'm going to do, you can see that the rosemary and olive oil, it made it so pretty, right? And so what I'm going to do now is brush it with a little bit of butter, right? And this one, look at that. Beautiful. And you can see the splits, how they worked out. And it's giant. It's giant. It really puffed up a lot more. So I'm going to brush it with butter, put it in for 5 to 7 more minutes on a low oven, and then we'll pull it out. Once again, I love your bread. Love your bread. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I can kind of, even though I'm stuffed up, I can kind of smell the bread. I mean, that's, whew, it's a nice strong. Okay. And this one I think I got pretty good. So I'm going to put that back in like I said, and we'll be back. Okay, they are done. And all in all, it just took, you know, 2 hours or something like that to let it rise and get to this part. It has to be in stages to show you. But look at this. So it's somewhat weighty, has a hollow sound. And I went ahead and put some garlic and herb on it when I spread the butter at the end. And the bottom is solid and the same golden tone. So that's a nice big loaf of bread. And the same with this one. It turned out pretty good on the bottom. And it would be tear apart delicious, right? So that one is rosemary and olive oil on the top. Pretty good. Pretty good. Nice solid sound, solid hollow. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you do try and make bread. You can see that the slits turned out pretty neat too. So that's all I got. I'm gonna slice some. Beautiful. I don't know how to arrange it to make it look pretty, but anyway, slice is nice, beautiful and fluffy, soft inside. Okay, thanks for watching. Try and make some bread.